Ready, and action! Bum 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 ba bum bum ba bum 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 ba bum bum ba bum. Oh, hello there! Welcome, one and all, for another fine day of fun and games. Or not really games, but you know what I mean. It's a fine day to discuss native literature here at Sisseton Wahpeton College. More stuff that's coming. A discussion of Sherman Alexie. I don't know why I put on here Hobbes. It's supposed to be Gary Hobson and Laura Tohey. So Alexie is Spokane or Spokane, Coeur d'Alene. Hobbes, I believe, or Hobson, he's Cherokee, and I forget the other one, Quapaw, Chickasaw, and Laura Tohey is Dene, Navajo. And midterms is coming up next week. Actually, this week. I got to put grades in. Reminder, as soon as you see the midterm pop up on e-learning, jump on it. And you already know my dumb little spiel about how to score A's, so I don't need to repeat that. However, I do need to remind you to answer the essay questions clearly. Knock it off with the ChatGPT answers. Sorry to be so mean, but that's what I've been getting. A lot of people, they sound like that what they've done is they've typed in the question to ChatGPT or some other AI and gotten one of those nice little um, unflavored soda water answers, vanilla answers that don't really address the uniqueness of our questions. All right, so with that being said, I'm going to knock it off. It says here I have spoken for 4 minutes and 39 seconds. No, I'm not going to knock it off. That's just too short of a video. Let's read from the Republic of Tricksterism, which is from Read, Listen, Tell, page 173. By the way, you may have noticed that I put the page markers not on the introduction, which is on page 172, and there's a reason I'm doing that. Because it says here on page 172, Paul Seesequasis is the first editor of Aboriginal Voices magazines, founded in 1993, blah, 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 blah. All that fun stuff, that's awesome, that's cool. But once in a while, the editors give away the ending of the stories. That's not good. So what I'm hoping you'll do is skip the prefaces to the stories, jump right into the story, and then circle around, go back, and you can read the prefaces. This one is on page 172. Without any further ado, or that being said, let us begin on page 173. Paul Seesequasis, Republic of Tricksterism. I believe Paul Seesequasis is a Cree, probably from Prince Albert, Saskatchewan, where I used to live. Okay, apologize for the me, I stuff, but it's important for you to know. Okay, here we go. Prince Albert, Saskatchewan. I need to put up a map on e-learning for you guys, but it's divided into 4 quadrants, kind of, sort of, more or less. There is the West Hill, the East Hill, the East Flat, and the West Flat. Well, how do I explain this shortly without overdoing it too much? There's also, it's surrounded by a bunch of smaller Indian communities and smaller Indian reserves. And the West Flat is the area that is the poorest part of the town, and it's where most of the Indians are concentrated. When I first moved to Prince Albert, Saskatchewan back in the early 2000s, we're driving into the town, and they're driving me in and showing me around, and the driver said, oh yeah, over there, that's the West Flat. don't overgo there because that's where all the riffraff lives. So what did I do? As soon as I got out of the car and got myself settled, went over to the West Flat, bought myself a house over there because that's where all the Indians live. But never mind. Let's read the book. Republic of Tricksterism, Paul Seesequasis. We were we were urban mixed bloods. Shopping malls and beer parlors were our sacred grounds. Reaching adolescence in the 70s, the Sex Pistols and the Clash provided the tribal drums. Fallen between the seams and exiled from the reserves, we were the prisoners of the bureaucratic apartheid of red tape and parliamentary decrees. Our tribal links were obscure, our colonial banishment confirmed by the Indian Act. I'll explain that in another video. White bureaucrats and tribal politicians alike were our oppressors. We are headed toward self-government, proclaimed Toby, the Grand Chief of the Fermentation of Saskatchewan Indian Nations, FSIN, as he shook the hand of then Saskatchewan Premier Alan Blakeney. In his hands, Toby, the Grand Chief, held a paper promising tens of millions of dollars, but that money and the power were destined for only a select few. The Grand Chief's vision was obscured by power and long-legged blondes. He denounced Indian women who married white men, while at the same time blonde secretaries and assistants crossed their legs in his plush office at the FSIN. Mary Sissequasis, a.k.a. Ogresco, was born on Beardy's Reserve on January 20th, 1934. The first child of Sam Sissequasis of Beardy's Reserve and Mary Rose Natowenho of Sturgeon Lake Band. Sam, my Nimosum, danced through life with gentleness and humor and became a leader in the community. Mary Rose, my Nookum, was large and became a bear when she laughed. She hunted rabbits, decapitated chickens, and farted in the directions of the bureaucrats and posers. They made love, had 9 children, and 7 lived to adulthood. The Grand Chief-to-be and his family lived downwind from my grandmother's farts. He was born the same day as my mother, but their lives were destined to take far different paths. Toby was born mixed blood, his father Cree, his mother white. But the irony and humor of being mixed race was lost on Toby. He would grow up as a mixed race pure blood, purer than thou, and given to exaggerating the quantity of his half cup of tribal blood. Toby lived in denial of his white parentage. Being the same age, Toby and my mother played together as children. They fell asleep infused with the dreams of Wisakijak and Pakokos. They hid under the covers from the Watigos and Hairy Hearts. Watigos, probably. But the Indian Act enabled Toby to imagine himself a pureblood. With an Indian father and white mother, he was allowed to stay on the reserve. In 1950, my mother met and fell in love with a white man, Dennis Ogresco. And because she was in love with a white man, and he was Hisquel, she had to leave the reserve. The Hairy Hearts ran amok in 1950 Saskatchewan. Cannibal spirits plagued the small towns and hid in grain elevators. It was open season on squaws wagon burners and breeds. By courageously proclaiming white-brown love, my parents challenged the humorless, segregational values of the time. Unable to hide on the reserve, they withered taunts and jeers with laughter. That love could exist between races offended by all the purebred breeders and in making love, Dennis and Mary parented two crossbred mutts, my brother and I. We experienced childhood between the seams, spending summers on the reserve, winters in the city. We played without leashes. Without pedigree, we learned to live with our genetic mixture coats and our lack of papers. We lived in no man's land between Indian and white. At school, we quickly learned to stick together to avoid the beatings of the purebred breeders. We found delight in the repulsion others felt for us. We pissed on the city trees, marked our traditional urban territories, and barked ferociously at the white poodles. It was the 1960s. My mother, now a registered nurse, worked at the community clinic in Prince Albert, where she healed the urban orphans and mixed bloods who were now entering the cities in increasing numbers. Toby, the mixed blood, full blood, too had grown up. He became a tribal politician, a chief of the reserve, and a wearer of suits and ties. His hair was short and his speeches long. He spoke of self government and economic development, but his mind was focused on attending conferences and getting laid in hotels. Ooh, this is so interesting. I'm going to knock it off here because I'll just sit here and read and read and read and read. It's already 14 minutes, but this I can see Prince Albert, Saskatchewan so clearly as I read this story. Prince Albert, Saskatchewan's not much bigger than our town of Sisseton. I'd say maybe we took Sisseton and made four of them and stuck them all together. We've got the East Flat, the East Hill, the West Hill, the West Flats, and all around are tiny reserves, Indian reserves. There's the Beardy's Reserve. There's a reserve that I used to hang out, which some reason I can't remember the name of it right now because I'm getting old and I'm tired. And then there's the Saskatchewan, which is a brand new reserve way out to the west where I used to go sweat and hold the ceremonies and pipe ceremonies and stuff like that. And so all the natives, the purebloods, they live on the these small reservations. But those who were mixed blood, if you were a female and you married a non-native, you were a female native, you lived on the reserve and you married a non-Indian, suddenly you would get kicked off the res and your children would be declared Métis, not native. And that was the case all the way up into I guess I want to say the late 90s or early 2000s. And they had something called Bill C-31. This is a Canadian bill that remedied that. And a lot of women were allowed back on their res, and their children were given full native rights. That was a big thing, and there was a lot of pushback against that from the so-called purebloods, and it was a point of tension. And me being brand new to the area, I got stuck in the middle of this, and I'm not even a Cree. I'm actually Potawatomi, but I can kind of understand the Cree language because we're all Algonquins, we're all related. But anyway, I'll have to share that stuff with you in another video. I'm talking too much. We've already gone for 17 minutes. Thank you so much, and I'll make up some other videos for you guys and edit some for you for the rest of today's lecture, and I wish you an awesome rest of the week. Talk to you later.